The celestial hall shimmered with 1,000 suns. Every wall, every spire, every hovering banner radiated gold and crystalline blue, the sacred colors of the Arden Empire. Billions watched from across the spiral arms of the galaxy as the royal ascension commenced. In the center of the hall stood the crown scanner, a towering construct of translucent metal and swirling plasma, humming with quiet power. It was said to be as old as the empire itself, older, perhaps, forged by the architects who once guided the first civilizations. The scanner never erred. It saw through flesh, spirit, and lineage, revealing who among the candidates carried the divine spark of sovereignty. Today, 9 royal houses had gathered, their heirs lined like jewels beneath the starlight. The heirs stood on marble discs, awaiting judgment. Their silken robes shimmered, each bearing the sigil of their lineage, the twin moons of Viral, the fire serpent of Karen, the obsidian son of Zothra. And standing apart, almost awkwardly so, was a single human. Ethan Ward. The only Terran permitted to stand among them. He wore a plain black uniform, no crest, no insignia. His dark hair was a little too unkempt, his shoulders too tense. Humans were rare guests in this part of the galaxy, tolerated but never trusted. His invitation to the ceremony had been an afterthought, a gesture of inclusivity, as the council had put it. But as the scanner's blue light swept from air to air, Ethan could feel something pulsing beneath his skin, a subtle hum in his bones, an itch behind his eyes. One by one, the scanner dismissed the royal heirs. Unworthy. 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 The voice that issued from the machine was mechanical, yet strangely mournful, as if burdened by disappointment. When it reached Princess Celera of Viral, the entire hall held its breath. Her lineage stretched back 12 millennia, her bloodline considered the purest of the divine. The light enveloped her, scanned her essence, and then. Unworthy. A murmur rippled through the hall like a gust of wind. The Archon of the High Council stirred on his throne. Ethan shifted uneasily. The air felt electric, charged with an unseen storm. The scanner's beam arced toward him, a column of cold blue that locked onto his chest. And then, everything changed. The beam flared white. The scanner, that ancient, infallible relic, stopped. Its hum died mid-note. Its lights flickered, dimmed, then surged in violent pulses. The air crackled. Shards of golden dust lifted from the marble floor and began to orbit Ethan like tiny planets. What's happening?" one of the royal advisors cried out. Technicians rushed forward, but the scanner refused to respond. Instead, it emitted a single, echoing tone that seemed to resonate through every soul present. The voice that followed was no longer mechanical, it was ancient, layered, and deep, echoing across time. "Uncrowned king." The words thundered across the hall. The royals fell silent. Even the Archon, the living symbol of the Empire, rose to his feet, his pale eyes burning with disbelief. Ethan took a step back, heart pounding. What does that mean?" No one answered. The scanner glowed brighter, projecting a holographic crown of energy above his head, fractured, incomplete, but unmistakably regal. Guards raised their weapons. "Deactivate it," the Archon roared. "Now!" But the scanner would not yield. Its lights whirled faster, its power building like a rising sun. Ethan could feel it crawling into his mind, memories not his own, images of empires he'd never seen, faces of rulers long dead. Then, just as suddenly, the energy collapsed. The scanner fell silent, its glow extinguished. Smoke rose from its base. Ethan dropped to one knee, gasping, the echo of that voice still pounding in his skull, "Uncrowned king." The silence that followed was suffocating. At last, the Archon spoke, his voice trembling with fury. "Seize him." 2 armored sentinels approached. Ethan tried to rise, but his limbs felt heavy, his thoughts fractured. He saw the horror in the faces around him, fear, not of him, but of what the machine had declared. "No!" Princess Celera stepped forward. "You saw it. The scanner has never done that before. He must be protected." "Protected?" the Archon hissed. "He is an aberration." Celera's defiance only deepened his rage. "Take the human to the archives," he commanded. Let the High Seers examine this miracle before it spreads panic. Ethan's wrists were bound in bands of light. As the sentinels dragged him toward the exit, he looked back at the silent scanner. Its glass panels were cracked, but deep within, something faintly glowed, the outline of a crown pulsing like a heartbeat. And though no one else seemed to hear it, the voice whispered again, softly this time, like a secret meant only for him. The blood remembers. Ethan didn't know what that meant, but as he was led away into the labyrinth of corridors beneath the hall, one thing was certain. Something had awakened. Something ancient. And it had chosen him. The corridors beneath the celestial hall were cold and ancient, built long before the current empire. Their walls pulsed with faint streams of silver energy, like veins in a living organism. Ethan Ward's boots echoed against the polished stone as the sentinels escorted him through the darkness. He kept his head low, his wrists still bound in glowing restraints. His mind was chaos. The word uncrowned still echoed inside him, that voice, not human, not machine, resonating somewhere deep in his marrow. They pushed him through a towering door into a chamber lit by pale amber fire. The archives. It was less a room than a cathedral, rows of floating stasis orbs containing relics from ages no historian could name. The air was heavy with the scent of ozone and old power. Behind a raised console stood a trio of seers. Their faces were covered by translucent veils, their eyes glowing white beneath. They bowed briefly to the Archon, who had followed close behind. "Begin the extraction," the Archon ordered. Ethan's chest tightened. Extraction? Of what? The Archon didn't answer. The seers approached, whispering in an alien tongue. One placed a shimmering device against Ethan's temple, a slender crown of light that pulsed to his heartbeat. Pain hit him like lightning. He gasped as visions flooded his mind, cities suspended over violet oceans, battlefields strewn with silver armor, the rise and fall of thrones that were not of earth. The seers recoiled. "He carries impossible sequences," one whispered. "Gene patterns not found in any record. Human, yes, but merged with architect code." The Archon's eyes narrowed. The architects are extinct. Their blood cannot remain. And yet, the seer hesitated, it does. The scanner recognized him. It did not malfunction, it remembered. Ethan looked up through the haze of pain. "What are you talking about? What's an architect?" The Archon turned toward him, cloak rippling like molten gold. "The beings who built the first crowns. Who shaped the Empire's destiny. They vanished eons before humanity learned to walk upright. If their essence flows in you, then your species has lied, or something has found its way into your blood." "That's insane," Ethan breathed. I'm just a pilot from Earth. Nothing special." The seers exchanged glances. "He believes this," one murmured. "He truly does not know." The Archon stepped closer. "Ignorance does not absolve inheritance. Whatever sleeps within you, it threatens every throne in this galaxy." He turned to the sentinels. "Take him to the Null Vault. No communication. No exposure. If the scanner's words reach the people, half the sectors will revolt." "Wait," a voice called from the archway. Princess Celera strode in, her silver cloak trailing behind her, her face set in fierce resolve. "Archon, this is madness. The scanner is a divine relic. If it declared him uncrowned, then the council must investigate, not bury him." "This is not your concern, Princess," the Archon snapped. "The scanner malfunctioned. That is the official decree." Celara's tone sharpened. "Then why are you afraid of him?" The question silenced the chamber. The Archon's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Celera stepped toward Ethan, meeting his eyes. "You didn't choose this, did you?" "No," he said quietly. "But I'm starting to think it chose me." Something flickered in her gaze, curiosity, maybe something deeper. She turned back to the Archon. "If he is truly of the architect line, then destroying him could destroy the Empire's last connection to its origin. I will take custody of him." "You will not," the Archon thundered. "Your compassion blinds you. If the scanner's prophecy spreads, the royal houses will burn. Celara didn't back down. Then let them burn with truth. Gasps filled the room. Even the seers recoiled at her audacity. The Archon's face darkened with rage. You forget yourself, child. But before he could strike her down, the chamber shuddered. A deep vibration rippled through the floor, distant at first, then rising into a tremor that sent relics shattering in their orbs. Lights flickered. The fire dimmed. An alarm blared from the ceiling. Impact detected, a mechanical voice announced. Unidentified vessel breaching orbital perimeter. The Archon spun toward the exit. Who dares? The seers looked to one another in panic. The signal, it carries the same frequency as the scanner's activation. Celara's eyes widened. You mean something else has awakened? Before anyone could answer, the chamber doors exploded inward in a flash of white energy. A shockwave threw everyone to the ground. Smoke filled the air. Through the haze stepped figures in silver armor, faces hidden behind mirrored visors. They moved like phantoms, silent, efficient, unstoppable. One raised a hand, and Ethan's bindings shattered into dust. Ethan Ward, the lead soldier, said, voice metallic but oddly reverent. By the will of the Founders, you are summoned. The Archon struggled to his feet. Who commands you? The soldier's visor tilted slightly. The true crown. Then, faster than any I could track, the soldiers vanished in beams of light and Ethan vanished with them. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained. Celara looked at the shattered floor where Ethan had stood moments before. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. The scanner's voice returned to her memory, Uncrowned King. Somewhere far above the planet, in the orbiting void, a forgotten power was stirring. When Ethan Ward awoke, he was weightless. A pale, gold-tinted light filled the chamber, soft, warm, alive. He floated within a sphere of energy that felt less like a prison and more like a heartbeat surrounding him. The air hummed with quiet power. Outside the sphere's walls, endless stars drifted in black silence. He wasn't in any Imperial facility. He wasn't even near the Empire. The silver-armored soldiers who had abducted him stood in a circle, their heads bowed in some ritual of reverence. One of them stepped forward and removed his helmet. Beneath it was not a face, but light-shifting patterns of starlight and memory-forming eyes that seemed to see straight through him. Where am I? Ethan asked, voice hoarse. In the place your kind forgot, the being said. The sanctum of the architects. Ethan's pulse quickened. The architects are real? The soldier's gaze didn't waver. We were real once. Fragments of us remain echoes in machines, whispers in bloodlines. You are the first vessel to awaken the inheritance since the fall. Ethan shook his head, struggling to process the words. I'm just human. I don't even know what this inheritance is. The being gestured toward the void beyond the chamber, and the stars shifted, rearranging into holographic constellations that told a story older than time. He saw worlds being forged, species rising from oceans, and a council of luminous figures placing crowns upon chosen rulers, not for power, but for balance. The crowns were conduits, the being explained, bridges between creation and consciousness. But the Empire twisted them. The scanner you saw, it was never meant to choose royalty. It was meant to recognize those whose hearts resonated with truth. Ethan frowned. Then why did it pick me? Because your ancestors bore what others feared, freedom. You are the descendant of those who refused to kneel before the corrupted thrones. The architects hid their spark in you. That scanner did not malfunction. It remembered its maker. The truth hit him like gravity returning. All this time, humanity had been treated as lesser, primitive, yet his blood carried the same essence the Empire worshipped. Outside, the chamber darkened. The light of the nearby stars flickered, eclipsed by a massive shape emerging from the void. A dreadnought, black as obsidian, adorned with the sigil of the ardent Empire. The Archon's fleet had found them. Ethan's heart pounded. They tracked me? They fear what you represent, the being said. The return of choice. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, amplified by 1,000 comm channels. It was the Archon himself. Ethan Ward. Surrender the relic that calls itself your birthright. Return to Imperial custody, and your world will be spared the cleansing. The soldier glanced at Ethan. He means Earth. Rage surged through him. He'll burn an entire planet just to silence one man. That is how tyrannies end, the being said softly. With fear of the one who no longer fears them. A platform extended toward Ethan. At its center hovered something he'd seen only in visions, the crown of origin, forged of shifting light and geometry too perfect for mortal eyes. It pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Ethan hesitated. If I take it? You accept the memory of what was lost. You will not become a ruler, but a reminder. The crown does not command. It remembers. The Archon's voice thundered again, furious now. I will destroy this heresy. Fire the sunlances. Outside, the dreadnoughts aligned in formation. Beams of pure solar energy ignited, converging toward the sanctum. The beings of light looked to Ethan. No fear. Only expectation. He stepped onto the platform. The moment his fingers touched the crown, it dissolved into him, energy flooding through every nerve, every thought, every atom. The chamber erupted in white fire. He saw everything, the rise of empires, the corruption of power, the truth buried beneath 10,000 lies. And then, his voice, layered with 1,000 echoes, filled the stars. Enough! The sunlances halted mid-beam, frozen as if time itself obeyed his command. The Archon's fleet drifted helplessly in stillness. Ethan floated above the sanctum, surrounded by streams of golden data flowing from his body like rivers of memory. He saw the Archon, standing on his flagship, staring at him in terrified awe. You enslaved entire worlds, Ethan said, his voice calm, resonant. You crowned yourself in fear. But the crown belongs to none and to all. The Archon tried to speak, but the light enveloped him. His fleet dissolved into particles of silver dust that scattered across the stars. When silence returned, Ethan descended slowly back into the chamber. The silver beings knelt, but he raised a hand. No kings, he said softly. No thrones. Only balance. The being who had first spoken nodded. Then you understand the final truth. You are not a king, Ethan Ward. You are the memory of kings, the one who will teach them to rule without crowns. Ethan looked out at the infinite stars. The crown's glow dimmed around him, fading into the quiet pulse of his heart. Somewhere in the distance, a new dawn spread across the void, the light of rebirth. He turned back to the beings of the sanctum. Send me home. The chamber shimmered. Space folded. Moments later, he stood once more beneath a blue sky, Earth's sky, with dawn breaking over the horizon. The world looked smaller now, fragile yet pure. He could still feel the crown's heartbeat deep within, not as power, but as purpose. The scanner's final words whispered through his memory one last time. Uncrowned king. Ethan smiled faintly. Not a king, he murmured, gazing toward the rising sun. Just a reminder of what they could be. And as the light of morning washed over him, the stars above seemed to shimmer in silent acknowledgement, as if the galaxy itself bowed to the man who needed no crown to rule it.